Welcome back, team. Today we're going to be going through my in-depth guide to Zaahen, the strongest top laner in the game at the moment. And even though this champ's only been out for about a week now, I've been absolutely spamming him as much as possible and having such a good time on my Zaahen journey. He's definitely the most fun top laner rights released from recent memory, so I highly recommend him to anyone that loves that 1v5 raid boss style of top laners. So in this guide, I'm going to be going through the best runes, itemization, laning phase, all that good stuff. So if you want to level up your Zaahen or just look to add him to your pool, then this guide is going to be perfect for you. But one thing to keep in mind, he's only been out for about a week. I am going to make a more fully in-depth complete guide later on down the line after playing hundreds of games on him, so make sure you hit that sub button if you want to check that out later on. First up, we have the runes, which is very simple on Zaahen, as you're only going to be taking Conqueror every game. Now, I have tested alternatives to give myself some more laning power, and you'd think Grasp into a champ like Malphite that you can't really stack Conqueror on very easily, or PTA onto a ranged champion like Jace would be good, but in my opinion, you just want Conqueror as this champion's identity. You scale so much with AD, it really feels like you're nerfing yourself not taking this page. You are so much weaker in a skirmish or a team fight without Conqueror. Now, you guys know me, I hate scaling, I love laning, I am a flat HP enjoyer, scaling HP is for nerds, you know all that stuff, but on this champion, it's just not worth it. This champion doesn't really excel in lane anyway. Even if you take Prissy Attack versus a Jace versus a Cassiopeia, the lane's not going to be favored for you anymore. Even if you take Grasp, you squeeze a little bit more of an advantage. That advantage you gain is not as worth as Conqueror on this champion specifically, so I highly recommend just taking Conqueror every game. It is definitely the strongest on this champion at the moment. Now, as for the runes in this tree, always go Triumph. You can take Absorb Life, but Triumph is a bit better. Absorb Life is just so nerfed, and you don't need Presence. You don't really have mana problems at all. I can't remember a single time where I've felt on this champ. He's definitely probably the most generous champion in top lane with a mana bar that really doesn't go I would say. Now, for the rune down below, you can swap, but I found Alacrity is a bit better because attack speed feels quite good on it, but it's very hard to build it, and you're going to be seeing in our itemization section, you do build a lot of haste in your items anyway, so Alacrity is going to be a really good rune for you because you want attack speed to help you stack your passive, but building attack speed doesn't feel very good. And for the final rune, always last stand no matter what, there's no exception. Amazing user of this rune here. Now, for the secondary, it is going to be resolve every game. You could take inspiration, but kind of a similar reasoning. You're not a champion that fully indexes into lane. You don't play volatile 1 to 3, 1 to 4, so cookies or triple tonic doesn't make a lot of sense. And sure, you could take boots, free boots and cosmic stuff like that, but in my opinion, resolve is just better. Taking second wind or bone plating for your matchup, and then either revitalize, unflinching, or overgrowth. So second wind or bone plating into Jax, into Set, bone plating, champions that cannot proc it very easily, but second wind if you're ever unsure, and second wind as your default, of course, into any champion with a bit of poke. Now, for the rune below, revitalize is good. It's not amazing like it would be on a Warwick, for example, but you definitely feel when you don't have it when you do have it, so it is stronger for lane. I'm still a lane fan. I'm still going to try to squeeze little advantages here. So revitalize does feel good in lane, feels good in team fights. A lot of laning phases you'll heal about 250, 300, which doesn't feel like a lot, but it's definitely noticeable. 200 HP, 250, especially using it at the right time, is not nothing. Now, if you're versus a champ with a ton of CC, like a Cassante, you can take unflinching, that's great. Or if you just want to scale a little bit better, overgrowth's perfectly fine. If you're ever unsure, if you don't want to think about it, just default to revitalize, definitely really solid option. Now for the rune shard, so I've tested a lot of double adaptive and attack speed. Both feel really good. Attack speed feels good for farming, for wave control. Adaptive feels good for the trading. I would recommend just going double adaptive. The trading pattern on the champion, you'd be surprised, it's kind of anti-synergy with the passive. The trading is mainly short trades, mainly short bursting trades and playing around your cooldown. It's not really a Darius style stick on their head and beat their head off. It's a very short trade playstyle. So double adaptive for little EQs, EQW, stuff like that. It feels a lot better, so I would recommend that, but attack speed's perfectly fine. Like I said, it does feel good for the wave control and farming, that type of thing. And then down below, of course, flat HP, big fan, but you can take scaling if you're into like a Gragas or a Malphite, something like that. Again, this champion doesn't play super volatile, so if you're versus a champion that's also not volatile, scaling HP is just a little bit better, of course. And the last rune I want to touch on is the percent movement speed rune shard, which is definitely a pretty good option on this champion. It does scale pretty nicely, you definitely feel it in the mid to late game. However, it does make you a little bit weaker in lane, so don't take this in volatile matchups like Jax, like Fiora, like Riven. Only take it in matchups where you're super confident, you feel like it's quite free, or in certain range matchups like Cassiopeia, where dodging skill shots, mobility, extremely important. This is a good option on the champion, so definitely when you get very, very comfortable on them and you're playing matchups that you feel like you're going to win anyway, you can run it, but just remember the best scaling in top lane is winning your lane, so double adaptive should be your default. Moving on to the item builds. Now, I know a lot of you are going to skip to this section in the guide right away because you're a little item goblin and I see you, but you're in luck because there are 3 very strong builds on this champion at the moment, so it is important to know when to run each one. So I'll be breaking down the strengths and weaknesses of each build as I go, and then of course really honing in on when you should be building them. But starting with our standard build. But no matter what you're building, you are going to be going Doran's Shield most of the time. This is your default starting item. This champion doesn't play a super volatile 1-3 like a Fiora or like an Irelia who love Doran's Blade, so D-Blade's not as good on him. But if you are in matchups where you don't need the extra regen from Shield and you can get away with Blade, it is of course way better. So a matchup like Irelia or like a Set where they don't really have any short trading tools, even like a Darius or a Mordekaiser don't really have any meaningful poke, D-Blade feels good into them, but you can go D-Shield every game if you are learning. Now, for your first item, Triforce should be the standard solo queue build. In my opinion, the Bruiser build is going to be the standard for competitive, but in solo queue, Triforce should be built most of the time, especially in brackets below Master, even, Diamond and below. Triforce is going to be your default first item. It gives you amazing dueling power 1v1, and especially if you verse champions that want a side lane, like a Yorick, like a Gwen, like a Yone, Triforce really, really impactful. It can be a massive difference maker between being able to win 1v1 and being able to win side, and not. And for any top laner, the worst experience ever is when you don't win side 1v1 and you're stuck under your tower watching your jungler just farm and leave you to suffer. So Triforce can allow you to win that 1v1, which means you can get side push, and it's of course pretty strong in fights as well. The extra haste and movement speed on hit, really, really impactful on this champion. Now the build path's not quite as amazing as it would be on different champs. He's not a great Sheen user like a Gangplank or like a Camille. It's still fine, don't get me wrong. He definitely uses it well, just not to the same level. So just prioritize Phage, I would say, but Sheen of course in some matches would outperform. Now for your boots, it's of course going to be Tabbies or Mercs. You are a bruiser. Mercs should be your default if you're ever unsure between the two, because getting CC'd is of course worse, but it's going to be quite clear when Tabbies are better, if they have Viego jungle, Tryndamere top, all that stuff. And then Swifty boots is just sort of more of a for fun boot. Every time I've gone this, I would say, in a game where I could have gone Tabbies or could have gone Merc treads, I do regret it, as you definitely miss that extra beefiness, so I wouldn't go it very often. But if you don't need Tabbies or Mercs and you're snowballing quite well, Swifties are quite good. They're also a good option to a champion like Olaf, who's very slow reliant. Now, for your second item with Triforce, Sundered Sky will be your default, but you can go Shojin instead into champions where it's very hard to proc the Sundered Sky. If they have a pretty heavy range com and you feel like it's going to be hard to get auto attacks onto multiple threats, Shojin's also very good. But of course, Sundered Sky as a default has a lot of synergy on this champion. Then another option is more. Don't ego more on this champion. Getting one shot is the worst. Doing a little bit less damage is not a problem, because once you have your passive stacked, you are just Thanos 1v9. So survivability is pretty much the most important thing, I would say. So more into like a Gwen top or a Rumble, something like that. Really, really solid option, or just a heavy AP comp in general. Now, Randrins I found is a little bit better of a second item than Death's Dance, but only got into multiple crit champs. So if you've Yone top, Yasuo top, Tryndamere top, Randrins feels amazing as your second item. Again, you don't need that much damage built on this champ. You have a lot in your kit, but you do scale really well with AD. So of course you always try to prioritize the AD bruiser items, but a full tank item like Randrins into double crit is just so valuable, so cheap as well. Now for your third item, it's got a toss up. I'm going to lean more towards Death's Dance because most of the time you are seeing more of an AD comp, but if they have a relatively even damage mix, you can go Sterak's or Overlord's Bloodmail. So Sterak's if you need the tenacity, Bloodmail if you don't. Bloodmail is your best damage item third, I would say. So if you just want more damage, that's going to be your go-to as well. But of course, Death's Dance into AD threats, more into AP threats, and you could even go Randrins third if you wanted into multiple crit champions. That's also fine as well. So I'll finish off with an example. You can see here, it's pretty much all the AD bruiser items that are OP at the moment and pretty strong. Bloodmail as well. Of course, the order really depends, but the first two, you can lock them in if you're learning. The first three even perfectly fine. But of course, if you verse AP, you might need them more third. You can go the Bloodmail third if you need damage, stuff like that. But this is your default solo queue build at the moment. Definitely the strongest one. They'll give you the most consistent value. Now, for our second build, we have the Bruiser build, and this one you're going to see more commonly in high elo and pretty often in competitive, I'm going to assume. They might change it up as they nerf the champion, but for now, I'm going to say this is your solid competitive build, where you go Sundered Sky as your first item. So this gives you a lot of beefiness, a lot of threat in skirmishes and team fights. You definitely feel a lot stronger in early skirmishes and team fights with this item compared to Triforce, a lot beefier. You can go in more, you can stack your passive more. Yes, you do a bit less damage 1v1, especially. So again, I wouldn't build this if I was versus a champ that I must beat in side lane or Nexus Explodes, but I tried it into bruisers like Renekton. Definitely feels amazing as a first item, or into tanks like a Cassante. Now your second item will be Shojin or Black Cleaver. Cleaver into like a full tank like Kasante or Malphite or something, or if they have like very beefy comp, and Shojin if they don't. I'd lean towards Shojin if you're ever unsure, as it is just a stronger item in general, and Shojin to squishes of course. And then we've got the Moor, we've got the Randuins, same reasoning as before. Again, do not ego Moor. It's really impactful if you verse Cassiopeia, Rumble, Gwen, Vlad, all these champions that you need to be 1v1. Survivability is key. Now for your third item, I'd go Bloodmail more often with this build, as you do want to have a bit more damage that you lose from missing out the Triforce. But again, same reasoning as before, Death Stance or more into AD or AP. Bloodmail, Sterak's if you need the tenacity, perfectly fine, especially in a game where I really need tabbies. I'm versus Renekton and Viego, but then they have Leona and stuff like that. Just go Sterak's. Getting CC'd is the worst on this champion, as you need to be hitting people to get your passive stacked up, and that's the most important thing. Think of yourself more like a Darius in a fight, where if you get passive stacked up, Thanos 1v9, if you can't, very difficult. And then same reasoning as before for Moor and Randuins. And you can see here, a Bruiser example. This one's pretty standard. Again, don't ego resist if you need them. This is the just kind of a standard one if you don't need any of them. And one thing I want to touch on is Healing Cut. I wouldn't build it very often. If you need it, it's perfectly fine. Just don't upgrade it. Just keep the executioners into like a Warwick or like a Zac. Those are the two matchups where you need it. Anything else, you can do it after your first item into like an Aatrox or a Fiora. Feel free to build that after you finish your first item. And for our final build, this is mainly into range, and that is Stridebreaker as your first item. Now, initially, if you watched my video testing out the champ, I thought this would be your default, but I realized ability haste is just way too important, and Stridebreaker does not give you that. Still a strong item, still really good in the right situation, so I'd recommend going this if you verse like Teemo, Cassiopeia, into Quinn, matchups like that. This is going to be a great default. You've seen champs like Renekton, they go into those types of matchups, definitely very impactful. Now, you can see the second item, Sundered Sky Shojin, same reasoning as before. Sundered Sky if you feel like you can reliably proc it, Shojin if you can't, or Sterak's at this point is perfectly fine if you need a bit of tenacity. If you're like solo frontline, Sterak's is a really good item second here. So if you have like Janna support, Sona, something like that, Kane jungle, you probably don't want to go full damage that game. And then same reasoning for Moor and Randuins as before. And for our third item, you should probably go resist at this point. So if you verse AP range, go Moor if you don't have it here. AD range, go Death Stance, but of course as your third item, it's mainly based on their comp, so build what you need in that situation, and then just the overlords if you need damage. And you can see here another full build example. In this thing, I just thought if they were versing a heavy AP comp, you can see more third, Death Stance 4, but you can kind of swap the order of those items whenever you want. Really depends on what you're playing up against, but this is what you can follow as like a default build. If you're ever unsure, just make sure you do. I know I'm saying if you don't want to think about it, but if you are verse AD Death Stance, if you verse AP more, at least put that much thought into it. Now, we've gone through the 3 builds, and the best time to run each one is going to be based on what we really talked about. Versus range, go Stridebreaker. Pretty straightforward. But Bruiser versus Triforce, I think this is the biggest question mark here. And in my opinion, because you're playing solo queue, you want to give yourself more carry potential. Being able to beat your opponent 1v1 is really impactful. Being able to get side lane pressure matters a lot. And it also has a bit more kind of 1v2 threat as well. Just a lot more upfront damage. So I would recommend Triforce as your default solo queue build. This is definitely going to be what you should run in most brackets. Now, in Master Plus, it is a toss-up. I'd say it depends on the champion you're versing. If you just verse some meatball like Renekton, like Kasante, just go Bruiser. If you verse like a carry champion, you can go Triforce, but it's based on your personal preference as well. If you like side laning, if you're like me and you like to play Camille and Jax, you probably want to go Triforce more often. But if you're more of a Renekton and Bessa Aatrox kind of guy, maybe you go the Bruiser build more often. So let your personal preference be a factor as well, as both builds are very strong. They have very clear pros and cons. It's not like Camille where if you Triforce and Rev Hydra is just the best build. If you don't build that, you're kind of trolling. This champ has a few options, so use that as kind of a factor as well. Now, on top of the core builds that we went through, there are some extra items people have been testing, so I'll be going through them just in case you're curious about them, starting off with Ravenous Hydra. And to be honest, this item is a lot of fun. It does give you a lot of that 1v9 drain tank potential, but it's not worth it for the main reason that you're just way too squishy. I could recommend it, I could see it being good in brackets below Emerald or below Gold, especially if you're into a meatball comp. It does give you that 1v9 farm vacuum style, but I'll just stay away from it in general. And as for Titanic Hydra, which is very similar, and a lot of people might think it's quite good because you do get that auto reset, but it's not worth it. That auto reset out of your stacks is not going to be the difference maker. It's better to have ability haste, and this item doesn't give any, so for that reason, it's better to build a damage item that also gives haste, like Triforce, like Sundered Sky, instead of building this one here. Now, for an armor pin item, let's just say Serratus Grudge, not worth it. The same reason why I don't really like Black Cleaver. You have so much armor pin in your kit. But I do recommend Cleaver into the tankiest champ in the game, Kasante, or into tank comps, but this item you would never go. This Grudge, to stay away from it. Eclipse is a similar reasoning to Ravenous Hydra. Way too squishy, not worth it. There's just better items that you can be going. Now, as for some items I do recommend that I didn't touch on yet, is Spirit Visage. This item is quite good if you have healing on your team. If your teammates are playing champs you like an Ivern, maybe you got a Soraka or something, Visage will be good. But in general, our junglers like to play Graves and not Ivern, so just go more as your default MR item. And a final item would be Jaksho. I'd only see this being buildable as your final item if you already have Death Stance and more, and you're the main frontline. Very, very rare, but definitely possible. In most cases, I'll just go Overlord's Bloodmail anyway, though. Moving on to summoner spells, which won't take long at all, as you're just going to be taking TP and Flash every single game. Zaahen is not a champion where you want to play super volatile, super bloodthirsty early game like a Fiora, so Ignite doesn't make a lot of sense on him. It's just better to take Flash and TP. Flash really important for your comboing, so you can't really go TP Ignite, and TP is really important for the consistent early game and the way you want to play that mid to late game. We are mainly going to be grouping up and fighting objectives, not over forcing that 1v1 inside. Moving on to ability tips and tricks, and starting with Zaahen's passive, which is relatively straightforward. Hitting an opponent with spells or auto attacks will give you a stack, and if you have multiple of them, you'll get more. So you can see here, I've got 2 stacks. If I hit 2 people here, it'll go from 2 to 4. And the only really thing you need to know about it is to make sure you keep tabs on when it's going to fade out, because in lane, it's not as easy as just full comboing somebody and just right-clicking them down. There's a lot of kiting in and out. You lose the extended trade, pre-passive, to so many different champs. You'll lose to Darius, you'll lose to Sid, you'll lose to even Jax, Fiora, stuff like that. So you need to be weaving in and out. So if you can do a trade, maybe just for example, if I go for like a W auto Q, click backwards, and then you wait for the stacks to about to drop off, and then you go back in and keep them going. That's going to be a really good way to kind of maintain your stacks. Now, don't tunnel too hard on it. It's pretty hard to get full stacks in lane, but if you have a good read on, tracking when the passive's going to drop off, and you sort of go back in before it does, keep your stacks going, that's a really good way to do so. Moving on to Zaahen's Q. Now, you're going to get enhanced auto attacks. There are 2 points to it, very similar to Camille. The enhanced auto attack will give you bonus range, bonus damage, and the first Q will get you 9% of your max HP. It's really good to spam this in lane and teamfights as well. Now, the second Q is enhanced damage and a knock-up as well. It also has that bonus range. So really important to utilize that extra range whenever you can. Now, both of them are auto attack resets, which is pretty much the most important thing to know, especially in lane, because it's not just giving you an extra auto attack of damage, but you get 2 stacks instead of 1 for each usage of the Q. So that's really important. Now, keep in mind the Q heal works on anything. So if we take a tower shot for a bit of fun here, it's going to work on the Scuttle Crab. It also works on, I'm going to take a bit more damage here, really get low. It also works on the fruit, little flowers, anything. So whenever I'm just walking around the map, even just getting my fruit from lane, I'll Q1 it, Q every flower I can. It really starts to min-max the heal from it. So make sure you're utilizing that as much as you can. You can do it on blast cones as well. You can see I'll get some health there. So really, really important tip for the spell. You can also use Q and Flash. So if you Q somebody and then flash away, you see the Q will still go off. This can be quite important for the knockup, or if you want to dodge an ability, kind of fade away as you kill someone, that can be a really good way to utilize that. Moving on to Zaahen's W, which is a straight line skill shot which will pull your opponent towards you. So it doesn't pull them in straight away. Don't feel like it's a pike Q. You can see it kind of hits them. It's a bit of a delay and then it pulls back in because there's 2 points to it. You can see 2 bits of damage, the 178 and then the pullback does as well. So really important that you don't get kind of carried away. When I first played him, I thought it'd be more like a pike Q, but there is that delay, so keep that in mind. So important point about his W, you can W flash, you can see here, I'm not quite in W range, but W flash you can. Make sure you don't just W flash like this, it's W, wait a tick, and then flash, kind of like Aatrox, you don't want to go too early. Now it pulls it towards you, which means if you're running away from somebody and you W them, they're going to pull towards you, right? So if someone jumps directly on top of you, so let's say Jack's queued onto me and I want to go this way, you can walk through him, W, and then E, like that. That little bit of a wait. Same with the W flash, little bit of a delay, same when you walk through him. So it doesn't pull him towards you when you hit him, it pulls him towards you when it pulls back. Again, there's 2 parts of it. So W and then E, you can see that's the timing there. So that's how you can get away from somebody, walk through them. W, kind of like what Shens do when they walk part through you and then taunt backwards. You can do the exact same thing with W, E, as long as you time it properly, not like that one there. Another good way to use your W is to W and R in one combo. So if you hit them with W, you know they're going to come back in. So if you W and then R like this, it's going to be really hard for them to get out of your ulti, even if they have a dash. Just keep in mind they will get pulled in, so you can kind of R where they're going to land and try to get more of that center going. So definitely an important way to use the spell. WR, really good combo. On top of that, we have the more standard one for trading, for laning, for skirmishing, which is the WE. Because the E, which we'll talk about soon, bonus damage on the outer ring. So you can see on the outer ring does a lot more. So if you W, you sort of have to know where they're going to get pulled there. So if I W and then E onto, where I know he's going to go, so WE, you can see I can get the outer ring of it like that. You can also buffer your W through CC, so really impactful if you can do that versus Pantheon W, Renekton stun, whatever they're going to CC you with. If you can start that W animation before it hits you, you can buffer that spell right through it. Moving on to the E, so we've already talked a bit about it, but the E on the outer ring, a lot of bonus damage. You can see 8% of their max HP as magic damage, so really impactful that you hit that as much as possible. Really big difference in damage there, you can see, so make sure you're always trying to do that. So make sure as well, one thing to keep in mind, you don't have to max range dash every time. You can do a short dash, so if they're right next to you like this, instead of doing like a max range dash, you can just do like a baby dash to the side here. You can even E in place. You can see it's way faster, so you can see dash spin. It's easier to react to. So if you verse someone like a Fiora with a parry or something, or you just want to burst somebody quickly while they're CC'd. So for example, if I hit the Q2 and just dash on the spot, it's going to guarantee hit that E there. So that's a really important combo as well, to make sure there's 0% chance they dodge it. So I'll do this versus champions that have a way to dash away. Like maybe they're going to Aatrox E it or Jax Q it or something like that. Q2E is really good, but I'd say more often than not, you don't have to change CC it because it's instant, so you can just E if you're in that range there. And one of the more important points of Zaahen's E in terms of laning and trading is the EQ. So the E has bonus as range, of course, the Q has bonus range, so a really common trading combo, which you probably saw in our laning phase example, is the EQ. You can see what I just did there, the EQ actually went through, and I kind of buffered the Q animation through the E animation there. You can see it's very instant, the EQ1 and EQ2. Really, really impactful way to use that spell. And one bonus tip with the E is make sure you use it to dodge spells. It may seem pretty straightforward, but not enough Zaahens are doing this at the moment. Use it to dodge in versus Camille W. Use it to dodge Cassio Q, Mordekaiser Q, all those spells. This is your main way to dodge. Just make sure you're dodging and hitting them at the same time if you can. And finally, we have Zaahen's R, which is a pretty straightforward tactical nuke that will hit their entire team. You can see really big AoE. The damage is really, really high at the moment as well. I'm assuming this is going to be one of the first things that they nerf, is the damage on ulti. You also heal a ton, so it's good to use this if you're half HP, or, don't tunnel it too hard. If you hit 4 people with it, it's going to be good. But if you can get the health from it too, it's also impactful in a skirmish. So in a skirmish, you wouldn't really lead with this. You'd use it when you're a bit lower. Now, the most impactful tip I can give you on the spell by far is buffering it through CC or major abilities. You can't be CC'd while doing it, so if you can buffer it through the Jaxi in the 1v1, the Pantheon stun, the Orianna ulti in a team fight, really impactful, and it's also a lot of damage reduction, so not just through CC. If you buffer it through major spells like Syndra combo or Hui combo, stuff like that, it can be really impactful as well. So that's the most important tip. Buffer that through CC as much as possible. Really, really impactful. And one more tip as well, chain CCing it. If you can chain CC it off a teammate, sure, it's going to be easy, but unfortunately, we're not always going to have that Alistair or that Rel that knows what they're doing, so sometimes you have to do it yourself. So if you can chain CC it off of your Q, so maybe you Q stack into like an EQR like this, really good way to use it, or WR as well. So maybe if you want to be the engage, I don't recommend doing this very often, but you can do a W flash R like this into an E off to the side like that. Can be a good way to do it. Again, you're not the main engage, but it's like any champ. Darius isn't engaged, but if you had a flash 4-man E, it's going to be good. So same thing as well. If you see an angle where they're kind of lined up, just begging to get run down, you can do a WR like this. It can make it a lot harder for them to get out of it. Moving on to the laney phase, starting with the Tryndamere matchup. Now, in terms of who usually gets priority, I'd say in general, Zaahen is slightly below the middle of the pack. He doesn't get pushed in that many matchups. If you think champs like Garen, champs like Set, Irelia, they're all going to get pushed up against you, and Tryndamere is no exception here. So he's going to get pushed up against me. My goal is just to take short trades with my Q, and don't make it too volatile. Don't get too low. Short trades are really good for Zaahen, as you just play around your cooldowns, and you can heal a lot of the damage that you take here. So you'll see straight away, I'm mainly playing around that Q cooldown. So here I got the Q, where does it go here? I got the Q1 onto him, and got the Q later on. So one little tip with Zaahen Q is the way you utilize your Q. So the space between Q1 and Q2 is so long. It's not like Camille. We have to be quite quick with it. You have all day. So you'll see what I mean here. I Q, Q2 is now available. Look how long it takes before I press it. And not only that, you can see I press it the last second. Now it resets the timer, which means you can hold Q2 for such a long amount of time, which is a really important part to use in this champion. And this might be something they nerf because it is quite hard to play against when he just stands there with Q2 all day. So you can see I wait out the full duration before I can cast Q2, and then when I can cast it, I do cast it, and then I can wait a really long time as well. But he doesn't want to wait all day, so he walks up to the wave, so I get a nice free knock up onto him, which is essentially a free auto where he can't hit me back. And now you can see my Qs are down, so I'm just playing to hit the wave as much as I can. Even though you don't get priority, remember, like I always say, there's a big difference between giving priority and giving hard priority, so try to hit the wave as much as you can. So here he spins in, so auto, I was going to go for the auto Q, but he clicked away straight away, so in hindsight, just committing the Q would have been better. So because he's a short trading champ where he takes grasp here, it's more likely he just hits me once it clicks backwards, so it'd be better for me just to Q. But if it's a champion like Garen, who typically wants to keep spinning, auto Q would be better there. So that would have been a better, I'd say, trade from me. And then boom, you can see holding the Q2 for ages, holding it, and then go onto him here, boom, cancel the spin with it and click away. So we are chilling now. So taking a bit of damage, but it's fine. We got D-shield, and if I just sat back and did nothing, I would not get any of my farm. So you can see just queuing as much as I can, utilizing that extra healing, and then just trying to get rid of Q2 without getting spun on. So there, if I went for that caster, he would have beat me up. So it's important to play a more reserved 1-3. Every game, I'd say, where I played super crazy 1-3, 1-4, it wasn't really worth it in the end. It's better to play a more reserved early game, because you start to get stronger later on in the lane, and if you spike at one item without being behind, you just carry every skirmish and team fight, so you don't need to play too crazy on this champ. So you can see he goes for a tower plate, which is fine. Now the wave is pushing back out. So I'm going to be trying to rush level 3 here. So at wave 3, there's always going to be a bit of a race. So the first one to get level 3 wins. So one thing I've been practicing recently, you saw me fail it there, is a max range Eing. It's quite an important skill to learn, and this is definitely, early on in my Zaahen journey, it's definitely a skill that's going to take some practice. So I want to hit the max range of the E, so that I hit him without getting an auto range, and I get the enhanced damage, but of course could have placed that one a lot better. So auto Q him there, kite back, you can see holding the Q2 as long as possible. You can see not using Q2 right away. Sometimes it's better to, sometimes it is better to use Q2 right away so that you get your Q1 back faster, because the cooldown of Q1 doesn't start until you've used Q2. But I'd say if they're, staunching you like this, hold on to it. If they're not staunching, if they're sitting back, playing Mundo, just hitting the wave, just commit your Q2 right away and just use, because you get your Q1 back faster, which means you can heal faster. But here I hold Q2, I go on him there, Q2 W sort of buffer the chain CC that a little bit there, and now we're in a really good spot. So just farming here, nothing special, get my ward down. EQ, really important trade there. The E max range Q, because the Q gives you bonus range, so they can't hit you on max range with your E. So EQ, he can't really hit me back. So I got EQ for free, and then I turned for the auto Q2. So this is a really common trade pattern. EQ kite backwards if they chase you down. It buys time for your Q2 to come back up, and then you auto Q2 like this. So you can see how good that trade was. Really common trading pattern. No one likes to get hit for no reason. They always want to hit you back, so if you can kite them back and then auto Q2, you're sweet. If they don't go onto you, then you're just sort of buying time for your E to come back up, and you can min-max the Q2 as well, like we talked about. So W auto. Click backwards here, and then here, I utilize my TP. So, the jungler is most likely clearing top. So if you verse a champ with no TP, okay, this is a little tip, not really saying specific, but leveraging your TP to gain an advantage, really, really important. I've got TP, he's got Ghost Flash. If I was versus like Olaf or like Fiora, I'll do the exact same thing here. Yes, I give up 2 XP, maybe just the one, nice, just the one. But now I'm back full HP, extra 200 HP from the refill, and a longsword, so I'm in a extremely good position here. Always look to leverage your TP to gain an advantage if you can. So fix the wave here. I mean, trying to fix the wave. He's just holding it. But you can see, because you have a bit of extra range on your Q1, on your E, you can poke them under tower a little bit. Not quite under tower, but when they walk out the farm like this, you can see I'm trying to hunting for the Q here. Trying to go for it. He's playing around it quite well. Q2, click back. Just trimming the wave here. Trying to play off my 5. There, you can kind of see going for the max range E. Really important skill to learn. I could just hit that E and guarantee it, but how are you going to practice if you don't fall on your face a couple of times? So bounce the wave back. Now we're in a good position to pressure. So get our level 5 here. If you walk up, I'm going to go. So boom, max range E, you can see getting better already. Auto Q, W, auto Q. It's another good trade there. So E, click away, auto Q, W. You can see I didn't W straight away. I bought time for my Q2 to come back up. I'm sort of spacing the CC. Auto Q, click back, click forward. Then W, you can see my Q2 is coming back up. As he's getting pulled in, my Q2 is back up. He's still stunned, so I can get the auto Q. And if he spun away, the Q2 would have cancelled that there. It's a nice little trade pattern. So now I want to dive this guy. I think I called all in after I got that trade. You can see trying to get my jungler involved. All in. Come here, bro. If you touch this cannon, I'm going to go. Always guarding those minions. So EQ, W, Q2, click back. Really common trade pattern, and he's just dead. I would have dove in 1v1 anyway, even if what's his face didn't come. That old champ. But because because he was there, I'm just going to use him as a resource, of course. A really good position. So base, come back. Be chill when the wave's coming in. Way too big of a wave. He went and killed my Syndra. I remember that. Unlucky. He just gets the free donation. The 1 HP mid laner. But it's fine. Doesn't matter. Makes it even. It's another trade out. If you touch this minion. W. Auto Q. Click to the side. E. Auto Q2. Might have cancelled the auto there, but you see the intention. So slow push this wave. If you touch the wave, I'm going to go. Especially if it's trending out, you don't want to let him hit the wave and get Q stacks to heal. Fury stacks. E, Q2, W, auto. So I prime my Q off the wave there to heal a little bit. No, prime my Q off him, auto Q. And then I'm hunting. You can see like he should be running away here. Of course, he probably hasn't versed that many Zaahens. But nice little trade pattern there. And then I know I win the long trade. So if you're getting ganked, a lot of the time, if you feel you can get that passive stacked up, go for it. A lot of players, I see this all the time from my students actually, when they're getting a gank, they go too early. If they go too early versus you, and you're already half stacked by the time the jungler shows up like this, just keep going. Just get it stacked out. It's really hard for them to kill you twice. So I ulti in here. He dodges with ulti, good on him. And I just keep fighting. You see kiting in and out. Remember, Zaahen's not like an Olaf. We just bash them down. He's very much a weave in and out of the fight guy. So I kite back to the bush here. Ulti in. Kite out. And then Q. And then E back into the bush. Keep trying to drop their vision so they can't auto-attack me. I'm just kiting it out here. To get the revive, you can kind of see him. Really good turning power in these ganks. If you can get that passive going. If they gang me and I'm like fully zero fury, probably just run away straight away. To get the wave in, I just want to dive this guy, calling up the jungler. But again, I'd play for this dive 1v1 anyway, if I could. If it was 1v2, I'll just ward and play around it. But we got to take any freebie we can get. And then here, eventually, we just dive with Syndra. Nothing special. And now the lane and the game is just completely over. And you can see this was a losing game as well, if we check up there. So definitely an important one. So definitely main takeaway, you can see the trade patterns. Playing more so for short, bursty trades around my my cooldowns. Not really trying to proc passive in lane. Really, really hard. I'd say almost impossible to proc their passive 1v1 in the first 6-7 levels. If your opponent isn't, sure, but for the most part it's not going to happen. It's more about short trades, playing around your cooldowns, and you can just sort of see trying to use my extra range as well that my E and Q will give me. Next up, we have Mordekaiser. So in this match, I went for a D-Blade, and I'm going to be playing quite aggressive, as I do every time I play a matchup for the first time. So I'm bashing the wave right away. But keep in mind, if this was an Ignite Mordekaiser and he tried to all-in me level 1, it wouldn't go too well for me. So I only got priority here because I played with more confidence in this guy. So auto Q, click backwards. Nice short trade playstyle. As long as I don't give him passive, I'm really happy. And you can see spacing out the Q2 as well. So you can see use Q2 at the last second here. And then trying to hunt for him. But he didn't make it that easy. So he started E. I think he killed one of my teammates level 1 or something. Or tried to beat them up. Burn their flash actually. That's what it was. That's fine. Even if he had Q, I'll dodge every skill shot anywhere. So level 2, here I go for a 3-wave crash because he barely touched the wave and I didn't really do anything that pissed the wave off too much. So we just slowed it down and went for a nice 3-wave with a little ward along the way here. So going back, now we got to be crashing wave 3 and of course getting level 3 as quickly as we can. If you touch this minion, I'm going to go. So you can see EQ, trying to, E-auto Q, sorry, trying to. So I'm a little bit greedy with my autos. One thing I'm working on at the moment is trying to really click when to auto Q or when to just regular Q. I'm always trying to greed the auto Q, greedy punk, but of course just regular Q would have been better, or even just E-auto, not wasting Q. There in that situation, it's very likely he backs off, so it would have been better for me just to EQ him. Because again, you don't really run out of mana even if you spam your spells. So WE, so this is a really common trade pattern as well. Just played this game today, so a new tool in my arsenal. So W into E, so they're already going to get pulled in and stunned, so you can guarantee hit your E, and I got an E auto as well. And then dodge every skill shot, because I know if I go on him, he's probably going to use spells onto me, so WE guarantees my E hits. And then I click up, dodge the E, dodge the Q, and we're chilling. So you kind of see the way I trade. I'm already clicking now. You can see. Already anticipating what he's going to do. Trying to kite. Even versus the Trendemem, it was kind of like this. Always like hitting and already pre-dodging backwards. Because you just know you want that short trade in and out pattern. And versus Mordekaiser, I know he's going to use spells here. So I'm mentally prepared to dodge here. By hugging that little wall. So get the wave in. So trying to pull a minion here. That's why I took a Q. So I could pull the minion back to the center here. And make him go all the way out. So time to trade. So first of all, I try to bait him to use his Q. You can see him. I try to bait him and get a Q out of him. But you know, of course, he's got good discipline. So he didn't waste it. And then there, you'll see I do it more successfully later on. What I'm trying to do is hit him with the edge of my E and dodge his Q at the same time. So when he Qs now, you can see I react with an E straight away. If I went down here, it would have worked out. And you can see I'll do it better later on. But that's the mindset. EQ, auto Q, click backwards, and because I failed, he got a long trade. So even though you have your passive, you're not a long trading champ. So you can see I kind of threw my lead with that play there. But again, every time you play a matchup for the first time, if you play passive, you're never going to learn it. So tank that Q, so I get cannon XP, and then I go for the WQ, and then dodge it with his E here. So I know his Q is down, so I go for WQ to heal off of him. And now I'm already kind of dodging his E mentally, his E mentally with my E. And now I'm going to be locked in on dodging. So one thing about this champion is that's underrated is the sustain. So there I Q the champion, and you can see every time I try to Q a minion whenever I can. So you can see it's not as much. I healed 74 off him. And when we do get a hit onto the minion, it's not going to be 74. So try to Q the enemy champion if you can. You can see 38, but I always try. I'm always trying to Q whenever I can. And if I had a bit more HP, I'd walk up and burn my Q2 on the wave straight away. But it's too scary. If he goes on me in this timer, it's not great. So we just have to kind of wait it out. But you'll see when my Q comes back up, I'm going to be utilizing it as quickly as possible. Really trying to min-max that extra sustain here. So boom, Q1, another 35. Those really start to stack up. Big reason why I like Revitalize on this champion. There it is, EQ. I'm mentally ready for him to Q me and the minion at the same time. Everyone wants to do that. So you can see as soon as he starts casting the Q, I cast my E into Q2. Nice little trade pattern there. So if you can dodge and hit them at the same time versus Aatrox Q versus Mordekaiser Q. Really, really good trade pattern. So here I just go for the W auto and click up straight away to try and dodge a skill shot and stick onto him because he is getting a bit low. So Q into EQ2. And there I just fake walk towards him hoping he would flash. My auto doesn't kill him though, he'll barely live. But that's the mindset. Maybe it would kill. I should have left clicked him. But either way, I wasn't going to flash just in case he did. And now we play for the dive. I think I mis-executed this one. QE. And then fail flash. I should have just gone the other way. I see the jungler here. But also locked in on my matchup. Just wanted to get that kill ASAP. So we kill. TP back. Let the wave come back in. And again, if you Q me, I'm going to E. Always mentally prepared for it. If you Q me, I'm going to E and hit you at the same time. Not Eing away, Eing on him. Boom. Off to the side as well. So I get the outer part. EQ2, click backwards right away, dodging skill shots. The short trade mindset, really important. Yes, I outplayed his Q. Yes, he's knocked up. But if I keep hitting him and he hits me with E, you saw what happened last time. So I'm dodging, giving myself more time to avoid that E there. Let the wave crash, zone him off the wave here. At this point, he started playing a lot more respectful. He saw I was going to dodge every skill shot. He knows I've never been hit by one. So he did start to play a bit smarter. So we need to play different in our trade patterns. So yeah, I just try to go for a max range E. I think I was just out of range. Yep, just out of range there. Try to go for a max range EQ. That's fine. Again, the champion doesn't really have mana cost. Don't like throw your spells for no reason. But your mana problems do not really exist. So here, pretty bad E usage. Watching it back, auto Q. E or Q there. I thought he'd run backwards like he's been doing the whole lane. But he chose to ult me there, so I'm just kiting him out a bit. I don't want to drop my passive. You can see as my passive was starting to drop, I came back in here. I really don't want to lose passive stacks, so I come back in, get stacked up, just in case someone's ganking me, which they were. EQ2, Nunu mid, so ulti buffer. So I felt like someone was ganking me because he ulted me here. And you always want to ulti buffer off CC. So when the Nunu's balling in, initial instinct you can see, as is a Zaahen main, I ulti the snowball straight away, buffer through that CC, and now I'm unkillable. Now I'll just revive so they kind of give up. Surprise, my W missed there. We're going to call winter map gap. Yeah, it's a bit weird. And then just beat them up here. So just go in, you can see, not scared at all. I don't care, I'll just revive. You gotta play like you have that revive. That's something I struggled to do in my very first game. Now, of course, it's like a switch. When you know you have your passive, or you know you're gonna get your passive, you do not fear death, you just get stuck in there. Of course, don't waste it if you don't have to die. But here, I just wanted to keep it going. And you can see got them both 1 HP under tower in that 1v2. And then my Orianna walks up and collects a free spoon-fed double kill. And now the lane is completely over. Moving on to the mid game. Now, the mid game formula on Zaahen is you want to be fighting every objective possible. You spike extremely hard on their 1 to 2 items. You're really impactful in the team fight. That's going to be your default game plan. You don't really play for the side lane that much. Of course, if you get opportunities to break the tier 2, you can take that, but you shouldn't head onto the map thinking, I want the tier 2, I don't care about fighting, unless, there's just no way you can win the fight anyway. You can be flexible, especially with the Triforce build. If your teammates are dogs and holding you back a little bit, you just can't win a dragon fight at that timer. Sure, you can play a bit more for side lane, but your default is we want to fight every objective. So here I go Randuin second, like we talked about. I'm versus Tryndamere. I'm not versus 2 crit champions, but I like Tryndamere not being able to play the game, so I went Randuin's there. So here I went a bit too deep. Wasn't really worth the 1 for 1 or 1 for 2, whatever it was. But whatever. We're mainly focused on the mid game. So now, next objective is Arakan in 20 seconds. So going top with my TP is the best gameplay. Now, opposite side of the next objective, TP in when it looks good. But here, my teammates all got caught out. So initially I hovered in case a play happened, but nothing good happened, so back to top. Remember, only commit to plays that look good. This doesn't look so good. Ezreal's full HP. I think a lot of players will make the mistake of trying to kill them there. There's just no real kill, so back to top. So you can kind of see, I want to fight this Arakan so badly. Everyone on my team died. We cannot. Let's play for side lane instead. So pressuring this, and a good little play by Syndra. So I W into the stun there. And then a nice little one shot. And we get the tier 2. So after this, I start fighting every objective. That was just an opportunity where I cannot fight the Arakan. So playing for top tier 2 was better. But you can see this whole time I'm looking. Before I looked mid and didn't go because it looked bad. Here I'm looking mid and I do go because it looks good. Dragon's up in 20. My teammates are running them all over with the Rift Herald thing. So I TP in here, buy items as we go. You can see I'm defaulting to these fights, but I'm not going to be delusional about it. I'm not going to do a fight that looks terrible, but these fights look pretty good, as you'll see here. So we'll talk more about team fighting in the team fighting section, but here you can see, very, very strong. It's kind of awkward to ulti without vision there. Probably should have held it a bit longer, but not the end of the world. We win the fight. We get dragon. But you can see I'm not just like floating around leashing the dragon or anything. You still want to farm well on this champion. You're not Malphite who just holds hands with the boys and boosts around ulting. You still want to farm well. So as soon as my job there was done, straight back to bottom, get all this farm here. So now the next objective's Baron. You know exactly where we're going to go, straight to bottom. Farm some camps on the way. And then, like I talked about, getting push 1v1 really important. I guess here Syndra and Pikes it, not really 1v1. But I would go on this guy anyway. He cannot push against me. So we kill him. He kills my support. Really good Pike player. Kill this guy. And now Baron's up in a minute. So I base. I head straight here. I really want to use my strength. I really want to fight this objective. I'm 3 items at this point, and I've only had the 1 team fight. I've had a couple actually, but the 1 good fight. So I really want this fight. I get here early. Getting full control of Baron. I come here, and kill them when they walk in. So you can see a lot of intensity around the Arakan, even though we couldn't get it this game. And then a lot of intensity around the Baron, which we did manage to get. So really defaulting to fighting these objectives. And yeah, they're not giving me the cool dopamine. That's why I'm trying to collect it here. They're not giving me the dopamine of coming in for a team fight. But we're still getting the objectives that we want. So team all dies. Nothing new there. And again, push in top, opposite dragon. You see the pattern by now. Dragon's up in a minute. I'll TP if it looks good. Okay, they're coming in here. Let me TP now. Dodge the least cocoon straight away. And just kill everything here. So you can kind of see the mindset. I'm still farming opposite side objective. My CS not 10 CS per minute, like I'll try to get on maybe like a Gwen or a Kayle or something. But we're still farming decently well, and we're joining every objective fight that looks good. If the fight doesn't look good, you can play side lane a little bit more. But if the fights look possible, like these ones that I'm taking, definitely want to commit to team fighting on this champ. Get to those objectives early. You can see I'm not TPing in super late. There, if we check exactly when I TP'd, what did we see? When I press the TP button, my teammates are on the way. Not Belviv, of course, because golems are more important than a 26-minute team fight, but the fight hasn't really happened yet. They're collapsing onto my Syndra, they're coming into the jungle. I know the fight will happen, but it hasn't actually happened yet, and you want to get to the fight as early as possible here, so that you can have as much impact as possible. Imagine I came 10 seconds later than this, and these two were dead. Not really going to do much. It's important for you to get there as early as you can. Moving on to team fighting now, your main goal in the team fight on Zaahen is of course to get that passive stacked up as quickly as possible. And the main way to do that is to play more of that front to back style. It's actually very hard to fully stack playing from that flank position. That doesn't mean you never flank if you have a full dive comp, stuff like that, sure. But for the most part, it's kind of like a Darius in a way, with the boys just stacking off whatever idiot goes in first, and then you can pop off later on. So you mainly want to be playing the fights quite slowly and stacking off the front line. Now, unlike Darius, you do have a bit of mobility. So you want to be kind of weaving in and out of the fight, kind of like the way you'd play on a Fiora or like a Camille, but more so from the front position. So my Malphite engages, so I go in right away and start whacking down this Braum here. So he eventually dies, cutting backwards a little bit, you can see here. Cutting out, stack my Q off the Rift Herald here. Another important tip for team fighting on this champ is playing it like a Camille. You want to Q stack off whatever you can. It can be the flowers, it can be a blast cone, it can be a little raptor. And in this case, the Rift Herald, stack up your Q, and then you can see here, boom, EQ, cancel the Lucian's dash, and then cutting backwards. Why did I cut backwards here? I don't want to stand there, auto attack in one time, and then be in range to take his full combo or get CC'd here. EQ, click backwards. Maybe we could argue in hindsight, looking at this frozen screen, maybe I could have autoed one more time, but it's better to, as a default playstyle, weave in and out. So EQ, click backwards here. Cutting back, Nunu goes in, and now I go onto him. So now I know, okay, I can get my passive stacked up. Let me go on this guy, flash EQ, cutting back, come back in. You kind of see the playstyle, a lot of weaving in and out, and I felt in this moment here, okay, I can fully commit because I'm confident I can get my passive stacked before they kill me. So I flash the Aatrox Q3, kill the Nunu, kiting out. You can kind of see weaving it with the team in the fight, weaving in and out playstyle, stacking Q off of Rift Herald in another fight. It might be the Scuttle Crab or an enemy pink ward, something like that, and just weaving in and out, getting that passive stacked up. And when you know you can get that passive before dying, flip that switch, you can fully commit like this, and it's going to be perfectly fine, because of course, even if they kill you, you will get that revive. Alright team, that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed the video. As usual, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And I plan to be absolutely pumping this champion for the next month, so you've got a lot of Zaahen content to look forward to. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you all next time.